Ask not what Star Trek can do for you. Today on Trekland Tuesdays, number 355, with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland, the home of TreklandTreks.com, right? Your own customized away mission wherever you want to go to in SoCal. We'll work it out ahead of time. Coming to you from all of Trekland HQ for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. So I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Thanks, everybody, as often, as always, for joining us here. No guest this week, but we're going to have a guest next week. I know, it's exciting, isn't it, on this ship? If you're listening to us later on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, all those things, and leave a comment now. It's never too late to leave a comment. And maybe some Tuesday you can join us live for the live show and get in with the great TTL community. Every week goes by, and I don't know if it's summer. I don't know if people are just feeling like getting out. I don't know if it's still residual pandemic is still wearing off for some folks, but that's what's going on. That's what's going on. So in between all these awesome guests we've been having lately, and in the middle of a bit of a Trek news drought, well, there's no shortage of news, but as far as new Trek's concerned, that's happening, right? I realize it's been a couple of years since I did this. For one thing, we had like a relentless 2 years where it was fresh Trek every week, just about. We even had remember the weeks we had overlapping? One series is going out the door and it overlapped with another one coming in, and they didn't even let each finale and startup, which was weird. You would think the finales and the premieres each deserved their own week of focus. It's almost like, I don't know, dumping a whole episode series all at once. We'll see how that goes down. We will overcome, Prodigy. But it really is the first time here. People have their eye on convention going. People have their eye on the Eagle Moss sale going out, finally jumping on all the ships, including a lot of your creatives. I'm looking at you, Liz. It seems like a breather time, even though it's June and it's summertime. So here's what I'm saying. I didn't even do my best John F. Kennedy impersonation. Ask not what Star Trek can do for you, but ask what you can do for Star Trek. That's my point. Apologies to historians and the great JFK, but it's such an iconic comment statement. And, it's Star Trek is, at the very least, Star Trek is two things, right? It's a business. It's a business for a studio that sells it and then gets it funded, whatever the hell the model is this decade. And then it keeps it on the air. And there's a lot of people that take home a paycheck. When my better half was the assistant script coordinator on Voyager for 5 seasons, we'd be talking about something. And I mean, she was a Trek fan, but she was a very armchair Trek fan. And there were times when the fan industry and conventions and the blurring over with which she was no stranger to at all. But there were some times she just got a little tired of it. And she'd say, all of this for make-believe, all of this for something made up. And I'd say, you know what? That paycheck you get every week is not make-believe. So, like, point made. But it is. It is a business. There's money involved. And heaven forbid it be tainted by the crass odor of commercialism, right? Art being tainted by capitalism. That old schism. It's that way on one hand, but on the other way, it wouldn't be here if it wasn't a hobby, as we used to say. If it wasn't a passion if you didn't nerd out on it. And since Star Trek invented the modern notion of nerding out, and I mean that, said it often, we'll talk about it some other day if you doubt me, but check your history. I was there, or I was close to hearing about it soon after I got old enough to know about it. And for all of us who Star Trek has been a passion, for a lot of people, Star Trek was a lifesaver. And those are the poignant tales that the actors, any of the creators, they are in awe of, they love to hear, and you talk to anybody in the business. I don't care whether they're in front of the camera, behind the camera, they're back in the offices, in the writers' rooms, or in one of the wherever they are. Anyone who has ever touched Star Trek financially, anyone who's ever been on a paycheck from Star Trek, anyone who has ever contributed, the vendors who aren't even on the studio payroll, but they're paid, visual effects houses and prop rental places and anyone, promotional, anyone who's ever the affiliate licensees, anyone who has ever had a hand in Star Trek will say that of all the entertainment related businesses to be a part of, they know deep down that Star Trek is one of the best to be part of. Because not only does it entertain so many, it opens so many minds. And yes, it has saved lives. It has saved lives and it's changed lives. Whether you mean saving a life by life and death, or do you mean plucking life from an abyss and giving someone a second chance? Not to be too melodramatic here, but you've heard the stories, you've read the books, you've heard people get up at conventions or now stand up in a Zoom room and tell someone, often an actor, and from the very first days, Jimmy Doohan has his famous suicide young girl that he kept up with the rest of his life. They inspired people to go into careers. They have inspired people to go into a creative career, acting, writing, directing, whatever it is, but also save lives. And when we've got that much of a fan base, inspired science and inspired anthropology and inspired teaching, inspired people to go into public service, I might add. And I mean all the best instincts of public service. So many people inspired to do so many things by this TV show, this commercial operation. It's an interesting dichotomy, and sometimes we feel like it leans one way or the other, but we all know people. And here we are. And you know what? When the shows are cranking out, we were spoiled for these last couple of years. We had 12 years of the fallow years, as I say. The Kelvin movies. And that was like a lifeline, but not real Star Trek. I don't mean Prime versus Kelvin. I mean weekly Star Trek on our screens where we can see characters evolving. I mean, we said this all over the years. It's been a while because now we've been a whole 7 years removed from it. But here we are with weekly Star Trek and cranking it out to a huge degree. Now it's slacked back. And now we have time maybe to get a breather. Maybe to take a breather, our own enjoyment. I say that. We're not about to have a breather once again come July 1st. And we'll talk about that in a minute with Prodigy. But it is. It's been a while since we've had this much of a breather to look around, make plans. Sure, you're making plans for your whatevers. But it's been a while since I got to ask this question. And I've never asked it quite this way. But yeah, ask not what Star Trek can do. What can you do for Star Trek? And I don't mean send cash in to help fund a season, because that's not going to happen. Although people have tried that in the past. The fifth season for Enterprise campaign in 2005, the renewed Star Trek. No, I mean, look, Prodigy is coming on July 1st. We're dealing with what that means to drop 20 half hours all at once. Cadet Alice and I are talking about what to do. There's no way we're going to watch 20 half hours with a newly minted 8-year-old. Watch 20 half hours and do 10 or 15 minutes and talk about each episode individually. We're still going to keep to our format. It's not going to be that first month. And that's what's key. Netflix is a whole different critter. I've talked about this back before. It bears repeating. There's been a lot of shared wisdom going around. People are trying to decipher what Netflix does. And the wisdom of looking at past practice with all kinds of shows, animation, live action. There was the effort to keep the meter spinning. You'll see some people from time to time say that. Here's what you do briefly. Come July 1st, if you care about Prodigy, if you care about the state of the Star Trek franchise right now, if you care about getting a third season of Prodigy, and I know some of the creatives have had to move on to other jobs because that's the way the world works, and Hollywood is hurting right now since the strikes. Animation's a slightly different world than live action, but still, there you go. But never say never. You know how many animated series, for one thing, looking at you, Futurama, among other things, how many have been away for a year or two and come back? So that's not a hindrance, even less so with animation. The thing is to get a third season of Prodigy. The thing is, you got to let the meter spin. And wise folks have been said this since the dawn of streaming, really. Since before streaming, to get a streaming show of a Trek on. John Van Sitters told me in the early teens, go watch all the Treks on Netflix and let the meter run and let the world, not just Netflix, just the same way that local stations showed the original reruns and their world blew up. You've got to do that again, only it's just a different metric, different technology delivery. The thing is, apparently Netflix makes their decisions in the first month. So if you're going to let that meter spin the first month of Prodigy, let it go. Doing it again the second, third month isn't going to help. Saying, well, I'll watch 5 a night every weekend or something. It's not good. There's 20 episodes. Well, I guess maybe that math would work out. The thing is, you got to hit them hard. You got to hit them fast. And that's when a decision will be made. Apparently, best guesses are that they make the decision within a month. And I wouldn't wait around for the 4th week to do my binge watching. Let the meter spin. And again, maybe you weren't a huge fan of Prodigy. Maybe you have a thing about animation. Maybe you thought it was a kid's show. You could read all the column. By the time of the last 5 of the original 20 in season 1, they were making so much world building. They were making so many canon chronology points, talking about the wrong. This is the decade of and during the synth attack on Mars, the Romulan supernova. It's the decade basically before Picard. The 5, 6, 7 years before Picard. It's a couple of years after Lower Decks, if you want to get precise. And the big picture of things is interweaving. And you've already got Kate back as Janeway. You've got the Picardo as the Doctor. Beltran as Chakotay when he ever, but you've got a complicated time travel show. This is not a show just for kids. You're going to have 2 realities via time portals. Some people are going to be in real time. Some people are going to be in the future. You've got a split cast. The ship pornistas are loving it because there's more highly detailed. Nothing is cartooned here. Highly detailed props and ships so whatever your in is with Star Trek, uniforms, badges, whatever. Whether you're not even a huge fan of the characters, Rock Talk and Murph and all of that. Although, if you had a Murph, you should hang on to it. From the one and only Mission Chicago? No, I was there. Where was it? The Mission show that had these in another collectible. They never turned up again. I'm just saying, if you care about the franchise, and if you are Prodigy curious because you didn't pay attention and now you've heard your friends chatter, well, there you go. That's the time to do it. New Star Trek is coming July 1st with Prodigy. It's going to be 20. Bang, get in early, get in often. And then what is this we're hearing? Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti are in the cast. We got a lead. We got a recurring villain. I hate villain. Adversary, can we be? Paul Giamatti, the guy who's told people for years, like Colbert on his show, what's he wanting to do with his incredible career, his funky, interesting career? What's the one thing he's always wanted to do? Play a Klingon in Star Trek. I don't know how you play a Klingon on a sitcom, but play a Klingon on Star Trek. Is that what he'll be doing? With Starfleet Academy we're talking here? I don't know. So many people poo-pooed Starfleet Academy because it was a 32nd century show, because they've had the old 90210 cursed dread for 30 years and it hasn't gone away. Although I would say if there was ever a time I want an Academy series featuring younger people, I'd much rather have it today than back then. I trust it to be handled better now than a spelling 90210 parody show. That was always the moniker. Will he be that? Has this casting news, has it's not a competition with Legacy. We've talked about all these things from week to week. That's coming to, has your mind started to change about Prodigy? And of course, we've got Strange New Worlds sometime this century. They were so delayed by the strike. They've wrapped now, and it'll be months. The Section 31 movie, which I still contend is going to be a backdoor pilot with Michelle Yeoh. She leaves, and it's a new series with this great cast they're talking about, who are now even starting to talk about that. One of the co-leads talking about how exciting and intense he was. Are there signs that once Lower Deck runs August, September, October-ish, that maybe we'll get the Section 31 movie before the end of the year, and then Strange New near the beginning of the next? Because with all these cancellations, we're being left with Academy and Strange New and Section 31. And if Section 31 is going to be more than a movie, that would occupy space. And if we ever get back around to Star Trek Legacy, if everyone just puts it on a 2 or 3 year pause for the slot to open up, maybe when Strange New runs its 5 or 6 seasons. I'm not putting anybody in the grave. I'm just saying, let Terry go off and do his series, do his contract movies, do his new movie, Enemy Mine. 7, Michelle Hurd, Jerry, everyone involved with the show who wants to be. 2 or 3 years is an eternity. Maybe it'll come back to that. People are so hot for that, maybe we'll come back to that. What I'm saying is that's our landscape right now. It's breathing time. That's where we are. And I'm just saying, what are you doing in these gaps? I mean, you're getting gung-ho for Prodigy, hopefully. You can't wait for the bittersweet last season of Lower Decks. Or is it? Mike's on. There's a new story in Deadline the last day or so about him talking about what a dream job Lower Decks got to be. It was the show, it was the Star Trek he wanted to make, and they let him do it, and how blessed he was. All past tense until they talk about, oh, we're not seeing the last of these yet. Yet another voice actor, maybe it was Eugene, said something about, I think we'll have, so is there something lurking? A movie? A move somewhere else? We'll see. But I'm saying that while we've got Trek on the horizon, we've had the first time in ages here, time to breathe. Ask not what Star Trek can do for you, what can you do for Star Trek? So what are you doing for Star Trek? Are you, you've got more choices in your Trek, and you can still go back and watch your Blu-rays. You can still go back and buy hard media and not put up with whatever happens. With the negotiations over Paramount and Paramount Plus, who knows? But having your hard media, I think that's all been a slap in the face for people once again to go back and get sets. And there is a new complete set of Discovery coming alongside of just a set. That's coming sometime the next month or two. They're going to be doing reviews and send-outs and all that. You're going to be seeing a lot more news about that. And, of course, with the whole set, they shot so much in the modern era, so much documentary, there'll be more bonus features than we've ever had before and fresh. And there's stuff sitting in the vaults waiting for the next 3 or 4 iterations of releases like this. So, yay. But in these gaps, are you thinking about recruiting, evangelizing, proselytizing, converting? Not to make it go into all these, these theological conundrums here, these theological connotations, I should say. But it is the time. I said this 2 or 3 years ago. You got more choices in Trek than ever before. Whatever your favorite is, if you've got a friend, you got a genre friend who's never trekked, they're Trek adjacent, maybe this is the perfect time to take a breather, get your nephew, your niece, your own kids, the kids down the block, your best friends. Maybe this is the time to get them in. Now, I don't mean be weird about it. You don't have to stalk anybody. It's a lot easier when Star Trek is omnipresent in the culture, right? In the late aughts and all through the earlier teens, it was like you had to be creeping to get people into Star Trek. It's like, well, why did we wind up in this dark basement with your DVDs on the show? It's at least out in the zeitgeist now, and not so weird. And people are on talk shows, and celebrities talk about it. So it's the door is open. Look, you can take someone to a con with you. If you're going to a Comic-Con with Trek guests, you can say, hey, I'll go see your people, go to your panels if you come with me and see mine. You can do that. Or you know what? I truly believe this. We have had a resurgence in small local cons. And we've had a resurgence, I believe, at least in Trek world, in even good old school local clubs. Now, they're not the old bureaucratic, I'm looking at the dues in the Constitution here, Article 2 of our club dues. People have dropped the bureaucracy. People want something that's, they want a commuter lane with no hard line. They want the HOV diamond lane, carpool lane, where they can dip in and out and not be tied into that lane. And people have responded. We've got, there are still Starfleet chapters, and there's the Federation chapters, and there's the away team concept. We've got a lot of that here in SoCal. LA away team is big, and going to con away teams. And there's the fleet who lean into cosplay. There's lots of ways for you to find out something more in local that I thought was going away during the computer age, everything going digital and social media, and then especially the pandemic. And if nothing else, I think the pandemic has made people treasure those one-to-one connections. And people maybe want more of that aside from the people you met online. Now you can see them at Vegas or wherever, Trek Long Island or Dragon Con or wherever. I think people are getting back to the point where they want to know who's in their burg. And I have been getting caught up on this lately because a lot of you know we moved. I'm still an hour away from LA. I'm going back every week. I'm going back Thursday to do some interviews and some archive digging for Roddenberry. So I am not out in the hinterland by any means. And neither are a lot of Trek fans. Case in point, for the first time in many years, I'm not going to be guesting at SoonerCon. So shout out to SoonerCon. Going to miss all of our Okie peeps and our Greater Southwest peeps who are there in Norman at the end of this month. But if you're in the region, you should go. And instead, it wasn't a choice. It just happened by happenstance. I stumble into, here nearby in my new home region, a little homegrown Comic-Con called Paris Fandom Con. Now, look, I don't expect people in Wisconsin and Idaho to fly in for this. But if you're in Greater SoCal, you might. It's a community model coming out of the arts and the Historical Society. One-man band. My new friend Greg puts this on. It's the third year. They've had wildly different success. They're trying to grow it. It is free. It is free parking. It's held in a modern, ultra-modern facility at one of the local high schools, but it's big. There's vendors, booths, and tables, Etsy artists, all kinds of things. And it's called Fandom Con. I mean, how much more obvious? The thing is, in the first two iterations, no Trek. I called to see about it, heard that, and I'm like, well, buddy, you've got Trek now. And we've spread out to some of the other groups around. Shout out to the fleet here. I think they're going to be coming down, maybe even running the costume contest. Again, if you're in the SoCal area and you can motor over down the 215, come down the 15 and up, and check us out. It's going to be community. It's going to be low key. It's going to be one of those, but I would love to see you if you're in the area. But my greater point here is, for the nation and the world, check those situations out, those occasions. People are wanting to build something local. And if you are building Star Trek and you're looking around in your friend group base, who knows? That's pretty low key. You don't have to get somebody to invest in plane tickets to get to Vegas or San Diego or New York, Chicago, Atlanta, whatever it is. That's pretty low key. Look around, see what's going on around you. Take a friend. How high stress can that be? Let's just go by now, maybe they're not all free and really low key like this, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than traveling, right? When you're not gung-ho and you're not in love and you don't have commitments and you're not repping and it's not half business or all business. What I'm saying is, I think there's more. I think we're in a swing back toward more local opportunities to enjoy your Star Trek, yeah, but also to maybe pull some of those kids in with you, some of your buddies, some of your genre adjacent friends, and show them off. The cosplay's on a level never before seen. Now, I don't know if they've all got Star Trek guests, Star Trek actors. Obviously, if you're going to a local club meeting, no. But if we've developed a little bit of a hunger to come back and have actual human connections again, it's almost as if Zoom put that on steroids, but now people have remembered what it's like, or they didn't realize there were so many like-minded people out there. And then they realize how far away or how close some of the folks they see on Zoom actually are. So that's my point. What have it's not what Star Trek can do for you. Ask what you can do for Star Trek. Sure, you can spin the meter for Prodigy. You can buzz all you want. You can cross-post all you can on your socials. And of course, you can go support your actor friends when you get to a big show. When you get to a big Comic-Con, you get to Vegas, get to one of these new regional shows that Creation is bringing back after 10, 15 years of the pendulum swing, the lull. the damage from the fallow years is coming back and making Star Trek more popular. We're picking up new bodies, new faces, new friends, new numbers. But there's still lots of low-key entry points. And who knows? Who knows who you might stumble into if you do a little quick search? Look around. There might be some clubs, nothing to shackle you, low-key situations, low-key structures where they're happy to see you and you come whenever you can. And who knows, you might get sucked up. Who knows, you might get sucked up to being a quasi low-key leadership title. Who knows, you might get sucked into helping with the table at the local, those kinds of things. And who knows, you might get a friend, a younger relative, an older relative. It doesn't have to be kids. But this is the time we've got breathing room in between it's summer, events are happening. So, this is what I'm doing. I'm helping this local area promote for the Paris. I've been hearing about, it's been great. Not only have I met up with a lot of the fleet people and some of the chapters, and I've gotten caught up on this explosion in their network, their chapters that are primarily costume cosplaying based, but also social and also do charity work like all the best Star Trek groups like to do. And yeah, Starfleet's still out there. The IFT is still at the Federation is still there. The away team model. And a lot of people, you know what? It's not a contest. A lot of people, fans, overlap membership. I was talking about how, a lot of these people I know, I recognize from greater LA, greater SoCal fandom. And this is the California experience. It's happening all over the country. We're coming up on the Riverside, Iowa, the birthplace of Captain Kirk, in a couple of weeks. Vulcan, Alberta. I mean, they're special cases. But I see more and more smaller cities trying to put together a Comic-Con. Of course, the guests they can get on the budget, whatever. But so much of Hollywood, if they're going to lose the tax base of filming here and they're going to lose so much actual filming around, then that means there's a lot of locals in Louisiana, in Georgia, in North Carolina, around Illinois and Chicago. New York's always been there. Seattle. Some of these outlying places that have had tax credits to entice filming, they have creatives. And maybe they're not leads of shows, but they're makeups and they're costume folk. They're prop builders. Hell, they might even be graphics and visual effect. Prime people to be guests. And they're fascinating and interesting. And you don't know who you're going to run into, or someone who has retired from LA that's the state of the world right now. And some of these folks don't know to do this, but some of them are catching on. And you'll see, I know that's a phenomenon spreading Washington, Seattle, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, around here. It's kind of a buffer, Colorado, New Mexico even. You never know. And then you got the density of the East Coast, the population density there. So I'm just saying, not only is Star Trek and fandom opportunities coming closer to you, like I think rebounding and maybe like never before, it's also a chance for you to pull your best friend along, those kids in the family that you think might be ripe. My two nephews in Oklahoma are now stalwart SoonerCon goers, where I never thought about spreading any of that to the outer greater family. Now they're all gung-ho and have to work on their costumes every year. So yes, we're waiting on the summer cons. We're waiting on the summer treks. Maybe in these gaps, it's your time to make your move. See what you can do. Ask what you can do for Star Trek, because you'll be doing it for yourself as well, right? All right, that's what I wanted to say today. And again, for those of you who might actually think about doing this, I just want to get in and support Greg. I think it's an awesome idea that he's doing. I think that's the kind of thing that people all over the country can do. Not so much 20, 30 years ago, but you know what? Since then, the geeks won, if you hadn't noticed. And even as people seem to be taking a breather from the comic books, from the superhero movies, Marvel and DC, as Star Wars fandom, again, not a contest. I'm not collecting points here. Star Wars is in a little bit of a situation. All these factors. Star Trek is sitting there basically untapped and still new to so many people. They're Trek curious. You can make your move. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for that. Hang on. We're going to get into the chat in a minute. All right. I just want to remind everybody once again that yes, TreklandTreks.com. It is Trekland tour season all year long since we're here in SoCal. Over 50 location sites from the original series through Picard. Not so much the Toronto shows. I know. Well, maybe we're working on that. But it's a one-day day tour. We go to 4 places. You pick it out with my help. I get you there. It's an awesome day, memorable day. You can cosplay, prop play, bring your stuffed animals, bring your pets along. Whatever you want to do when you're in LA, business or pleasure, and you got a spare day. Check it out, TreklandTreks.com. But of course, I really want to do a shout out to our ever-changing, ever-evolving group of our Patreons. Start saying Kickstarter. No, I haven't said Kickstarter in 5 years. No. So thank you so much. Our TTLers, right? Diana Hopkins, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Lawrence Todd, Halbjörn Gunnjonsson, Justin Porteous, Glinda Bruton, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Chris Jiggins, Keith Rombach, Comedy Forecast, and Andrew Jasimski. And our live wires, Rob McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Alan Hoenzi, Dave Gregory, Greg Wickstrom, and Casey Shafsky. How do you do? What's the deal? It's just a simple $5, $10 minimum a month. The $5 get the shout out. The $10, I need to open up the vault again and do another round of early day. I say early day from 5-6 years ago, but they're green. They're evergreen. Backstage creatives who have been our monthly guests for Portal 47, which is now into going to be 9 years this fall. Wow. Started in 2015 before anybody knew what Zooming was. We were virtualizing. Hey, it's at patreon.com/TreklandLive. I would love for you to jump in and be a supporter here and just be a part of us trying to spread the Trekland web. I still do hear people, and I appreciate it, talk about when we do interviews here, when we are portales or people see something I do. You know, lots of good interviewers out there, but, you know, it's kind of my training. I kind of worked in news for a long time, as well as being a fan. And I'd like to think that, yeah, it's not just the same old, same old. I'd like to think that's what we do here, not just the same old, same old. Elsewhere around the web, ta-da, in Trekland. Yeah, the Trek Files is up this week. It's new. We've got, now you've seen him do an interview or two, but Lawrence Luckinbill, Larry Luckinbill, who played Sybok. Yes, it's the Star Trek V anniversary, but he's got a new book out. His amazing actor's life. Typical, I want to say typical actor because you can't typicalize these, but is very blunt and open about his rough life growing up and all his years on stage in New York, coming back and doing Star Trek V was both liberating from him and enjoyable. And he loves to talk about it, but he also is very blunt about his life and his attitudes about acting, all of that, the stage versus film and TV. He's got a great book out, Effective Memory, combining the psychological term and the acting term. He's on the Trek Files this week. We have him. And we're talking mainly Star Trek, which is fun. He tells some stories. And I've got some surprises coming down the pike with that too. But you know where to get that. We have a new home. Our new home at Memory Alpha. You can get the document and the podcast right there together and links back to the guests and everything relevant. It's awesome. And of course, where I am on Twitter, X, still Larry Nemecek. It's Larry's Trekland on Instagram and Facebook and here on YouTube. Like and subscribe. If you're curious about Portal 47, the whole monthly package, it's a lot more than just a guest. Portal47.net. Check that out. It's getting to be con season. We might be having some convention specials coming up. All right. Hey, that is it. I'm going to leave you later, folks, on YouTube right now. Don't forget to comment below. It's not too late to do that. Thank you for joining us here on YouTube if you're doing that. And again, join us live on Tuesdays when you can. It's 1 p.m.-ish Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK time, 10 Central Europe. That's why I do this. So we have folks from around the globe in the chat with us. You can never make it live. And live or later, please take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Do all the things. I say stay woke. I mean, check your sources. Don't be shocked when a piece of history turns up that no one ever told you about. A fact of life that no one ever told you about. There was probably a reason. Don't bury your head in the sand. There's a lot of layers to the meaning stay woke. That's what I mean. But then again, you got to guard. You got to guard against the false info too. So check the sources, would you? And trek well.